Welcome back to the Gweilo Safety channel. Being a person that travels between China and Canada and spending the last 14 months in Canada sort of gives you a perspective of how the governments influence your day-to-day life. And because, as I say, how are you? I'm good. As I say, because I travel between the two countries, I can sort of see it from actually living it in both countries. I noticed in Canada when I went back, after the pandemic had, well, sort of slowed down and just about quit, that inflation had taken over. The Canadian government was handing out money to just about everybody and their dog, businesses, people, so that they could pay their rent, so they could go out and buy beer. They raised the beer tax while I was in Canada. You know, the idea that they legalized hard drugs in British Columbia. You can now walk around with 3.5 grams of heroin, cocaine, opium, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. And that all influences the style of life that you live as a Canadian. In China, it is totally different. They didn't do a whole bunch of handouts during the pandemic. Inflation didn't go up here. Seriously, housing actually went down. Their inflation rate is hovering around anywhere between 1.6 to 2% per year. In the Western world, they can only dream of that at this point. So when you look at both places, like I go to the grocery store in Canada and I am paying double what I did a year and a half ago in Canada. Here, they're paying exactly the same thing, and even maybe a little bit less. Just had to stop at the store, one of my old hangouts here, to get a nice cold one because I'm in China. 5 years ago, this is 5 RMB. Now it's 5 RMB. That's less than $1, guys, as I said in my last video. But you see, inflation hasn't taken hold for a number of reasons, and one is that they never gave out a bunch of handouts. They didn't print money like it was going out of style. The government doesn't have to kowtow to the people. Yeah, kowtow to the people, because the people will vote you out if you don't give them handouts. And that makes for a stronger economy. In China, rather than giving handouts, they gave jobs. They did more infrastructure, more high-speed rails, fixed more roads. They built more high-rises. They built better airports. They built more schools. They built bigger, better hospitals. They did all of the things that the Western world wishes they had done. Like Trump said, you know, we're how many trillions of dollars in debt, and we have nothing to show for it. Our infrastructure is shit. Why is that? Because all of the money is going to the military-industrial complex and creating wars around the world. Why is the United States, Canada, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand so pissed off at China? Because China's doing something right. China's making a better life for their citizens. Look at these guys. Hey, everybody. You know, everybody that wants to work here has a job. Everybody that wants, like, look at this place. Just one of many little communities in Nanning, the city of 8 million people. Cool. So, you know, as I walk through a mall area with high-rises all around me, as you can see, high-rises all around me, drinking a nice cold beer, not a worry in the world, and they have travel restrictions on China where you may be arbitrarily detained. Define arbitrarily, you know what I mean? You know, tell that to Assange and Snowden. If you tell the truth about government corruption in the Western world, you're the one. You're the one that's going to go to jail, not the corrupt politicians, you know, not the corrupt bureaucrats. You as the person that leaks these documents goes to jail. See, there's a whole different mindset here than there is in the Western world. They've been keeping their heads down for 100 years. trying to build a country that's better than everything else around them in the world. And they've actually done it. It's already done. They're just making it better, bigger, and they're going faster and faster. I took a high-speed train from Hong Kong to Nanning. It cost me, I don't know, 300 RMB maybe, 250, 300 RMB. That's, you know, $40 to $60 Canadian, something like that. And it took 4 hours to get here altogether. Well, you can't do that in the United States. The richest country in the world has no high-speed trains. Why? They're obviously doing something wrong. So let's get back to this inflation thing. I walk into a store and I want to buy some lotus root. It's $12.99 a pound. $12.99 a pound. Here it's just under 60 cents a jing. A jing is 500 grams, so it's what is that? 46 grams more than a pound. So you're paying maybe 55 cents for a pound rather than $12.99. Think about that, guys. The markup, you know, the little onions that you slice up and you put in stir fry. Well, here you can get twice as much as they get in Little Bunch in Canada. And Little Bunch in Canada is anywhere from $1.59 to $1.99. So that's you know, 8 to 10 RMB. Here you get twice as much for 1 RMB. Yes. We went out and bought, I don't know, 8 or 9 oranges yesterday. It was under 40 cents. So when you go to the grocery store and you see the price, and people are going to say, well, but they grow that in China. Well, in Canada, you wait until the fall when potatoes are grown in your backyard, lettuce and carrots, and see if the price goes down. It might go down a little bit, but not very much. So the idea that it's grown in your backyard is bullshit. It's because they have 3 or 4 big corporations selling you all of the groceries that you need to survive. You know, their CEOs are getting a $1.2 million raise per year. Why? Because they're gouging the living shit out of you guys. And you take it because that's the way the system's set up. Here you go into a wet market, there's 150 or 250 people that own their own little stall, and they're in competition with their neighbor, so the prices are regulated through competition. You don't have that competition in the Western world. You've got 3 or 4 big bosses get in a room and they're going to set the prices on all your food, your meat, your vegetables, your fruits. Doesn't matter where they come from. You're going to pay a pretty penny for it because they're all in cahoots against you, the consumer. But that's what you're used to. Here, it's a different story. They're not used to getting gouged. They have a government that actually stops stuff like that. If that was going on, there would be rules and regulations, laws set up to make sure that that doesn't happen. One thing about China is they've got lots of food. And one of my next videos is going to be walking through a wet market and actually showing you the prices of all of these vegetables, and they are fresh, fresh, fresh. They're not these half-rotten things that you get in Superstore in Nanaimo. Like I'm telling you, sometimes I go in there and I look at the produce, I look at the fruit, and they're rotting, sitting there. You know, you got to sort of go through them to find out which ones are edible and which ones aren't. You get them home a day later, they're rotten too. You're not gonna, they can't sell that stuff here because there's competition next door. Another, for instance, is Wei Fang and I went out this morning for dim sum, and we had, I think, 7 courses of dim sum and tea, and it cost us 93 RMB. 93 RMB would be, I don't know, 19 bucks-ish type thing. So for $19, what kind of dim sum can you get in Canada, or what kind of dim sum can you get in the United States, or Great Britain, or Australia? Like, seriously, think about that. You're not going to get a lot for that. And so, you know, and people always sort of rag on China. Well, the Chinese people make less per year than the Canadian people. Well, yeah, they do. A lot less. But you know what? it costs them a lot less to live their daily lives. You know, your transportation is a lot of electrical stuff, like my electric e-bike that I love. You've got high-speed trains that take you from city to city. You've got subways that take you around the city. And those subways are you know, 30, 40 cents Canadian to get you from the outskirts of a city like Nanning, that's 8 million people, downtown. You know, as I tell you, the high-speed trains are cost-effective for sure. For sure. Flying in China, like I know that I can fly from here to Shanghai, which is about 3.5 hours in the air, for under 1,000 RMB, so for under 200 bucks. Try doing that in Canada. So when people say that the Chinese people make less money, so they must be depressed or they must be poor people. Well, it's not really like that. It's all relevant in the big scheme of things, and it's all because the government has made it so inflation isn't a big problem here. The only thing that I can say that is expensive in a place like Nanning City or any big city in China is housing. But that sort of works along with the Chinese way of life, because you've got multi-generational families, people that are living, you know, grandparents, parents, and grandchildren, all living in the same property and contributing to that property for, you know, for payments to the bank if they've got a mortgage, condo fees and whatever. So, you know, it's all designed and it works pretty damn good from what I can see. Sure, I'm a foreigner, I got Canadian bucks in my jeans, probably richer than most people in mainland China, no doubt richer than most people in mainland China, and maybe I don't see it how they see it on the street. But then again, I've got lots of friends that have lived in China their whole life that aren't highly educated, that own their own homes, their children are going to university, and they don't figure that there's a problem doing all of this stuff on the wages that they earn. So when you look at it that way, this is China. And it is, you know, they're just setting up. It's early in the day, and yes, Gweilo, it's like 11 o'clock in the morning, and Gweilo's having a beer. But yeah, you know, I'm doing it for you guys. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm only doing it for you guys. So when you hear all the rhetoric about how bad Chinese people have it, how people are being forced to do this and forced to do that, live in a dictatorship. A communist country. Oh, these poor people that can walk down the street having a beer, that can buy a head of lettuce, not for $5 like you do in Canada, but for like 30 cents. You know, when their children go to university, it's not expensive like it is in the Western world. When when you go to see a doctor, it's a 3 or 4 RMB, so you're paying less than $1 Canadian to see a doctor here in China. You know, so all of these things are sort of built into the system, probably subsidized by the government. The food, I don't think is. Well, the food, I'm pretty sure isn't. But the going to the doctor, universities and stuff like that, I would imagine do have some subsidizing to them somehow. But it's just one of those things that a world that is different than the Western world, that being somebody that lives in both of these worlds, has seen for 20 years, and I can tell you without a reason, without any doubt at all, that China has a better way of doing things. By far, people are happier here. They work harder, but they have an easier life. Yes, not a lot of bankruptcies, not a lot of mass shootings. Actually, no mass shootings. No drug addicts running around on the streets, no homeless camps, no, you know, you've heard it all before on this channel. But during the pandemic and after the pandemic, China has come out of it as the top country in the world by far. it's just, I don't think that the West has seen it yet. I know that the Americans are always giving these little temper tantrums about China and how they're the enemy. And I think it's because, as Joe Biden said, China's eating their lunch. Anyway, that's another video from Gweilo 60. If you like this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe. Push that share button. Buy me a beer. I'm running out of beer money really fast, guys. Well, no, I'm not, but buy me a beer anyway. I'm thirsty. Anyway, that's another video from Gweilo 60. Thanks for watching. Peace out. Bye now.